Hello and welcome to TSB Means Business, a program brought to you by the Savings Bank. I'm your host, Allie Houghton, and today joining me is Pete Johnston, Senior VP and Senior Commercial Banking Officer, Nick Kafalis, VP Commercial Banking, Brendan Sozik, President and CEO of First Financial Trust, and Janice Casoli, Senior VP and Trust Officer. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
So today we're going to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about what trust officers and investment officers do and why it's important to start thinking about investing early and how it can be beneficial to you. Brendan, can you tell us a little bit about who First Financial Trust is?
Sure. So First Financial Trust is a nationally chartered trust company. What that means is we have the power to operate as a trustee in all 50 states across the country. What that also means is that we fall under a different regulator than most wealth management firms. So most investment firms out there fall under the guise of the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. We're under a different regulator. We operate under the OCC, which is the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And that gives us kind of an extra layer, an extra level of protection for our clients. They're a much more stringent regulator. They're in our offices on average about every 18 months, going through all of our accounts, making sure that we're administering them correctly, and it provides that extra level of comfort for our clients, knowing that there's much stricter oversight being under the OCC.
Janice and Brendan, could you tell us a little bit about what you do at First Financial Trust, maybe a little bit of your background of how you got there?
Sure. So I operate on the investment side. So every one of our clients gets two officers assigned to them, an investment officer to help them manage their stock and bond portfolio. And they also have a trust officer on each account that allows them to administer the trust under the rules of the trust, take care of certain tax payments, IRA distributions, things like that. So my background is I started with the firm in 2003. I joined as a portfolio manager and also to handle the trading for the firm, and worked my way up to Chief Investment Officer as of a couple of years ago, and has since stepped in as the President and CEO. So for all of our clients, I oversee what stocks we're buying, what bonds we're buying, and kind of custom tailoring each account for their goals.
And I'm Janice Casoli. I've been with First Financial since 2008, and I started out as a trust officer. And a trust officer administers the funds according to the document that was created by the donor and their attorney. And this means dealing with families for like multiple generations after the donor has passed. We also administer IRAs and take care of the required minimum distribution when a client reaches 70 and a half. And we sit down and meet with a client. We try to consolidate, if they have multiple IRAs, consolidate them into one. And something that makes us a little bit unique is that we manage real estate that's in the name of the trust. So we'll take care of all aspects of cleaning it out and selling it, putting it on the market, and again, dealing with that according to the terms of the document.
So other than the real estate and the IRA type accounts, are there any other accounts that you would oversee?
We take care of investment management accounts and just the day-to-day talking with the clients and any type of needs that they might acquire.
Brendan, what type of clients do you work with on a daily basis?
Yeah, so we work with everyone. Unlike a lot of firms, we don't have any stated account minimums. So we'll work with you anywhere from $5,000 up to many millions of dollars. So it really, what we try to do is work with each client individually and build kind of a custom tailored portfolio to whatever their needs and objectives are. But you don't have to have the really high level threshold to work with us. We'll take anyone. And beyond that, we work with not only individuals, but we work with nonprofits. We work with some small business owners. And so it's really kind of anybody in any situation we're willing to take a look at and work with them.
How do you think a trust company like FFT would be beneficial to a commercial customer?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges they face is kind of a lack of diversification. So they typically, their focus is on real estate. It's what they know, it's what they do. And that can require a lot of resources. But to the ability that they have liquid assets, you want the ability to diversify away from just real estate risk. So we can provide them, other types of fixed income products, or we can put them into the stock market because not all asset classes act the same all the time. So if the real estate market is weak, stock market may be doing well and vice versa. So it's really the benefits of diversification that can help with their portfolio.
And Pete and Nick, how do you feel that a company like FFT can be beneficial to your clients?
Well, it just provides another layer of service that we can give to our customers at TSB. And with their expertise and their professionalism, it can help, like Brenda just alluded to, diversify their portfolio. So it helps them to gain control and help minimize their risk. And I think that is very important for our customer base.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thing that strikes me is not every community bank like the savings bank offers trust and investment services, and so I think it's an important arrow in our quiver, so to speak. I was remembering Janice and I primarily have had a lot of contact with each other over the years. I've been with the savings bank for 10 years now, and we've talked many, many times. We enjoy having bacon together with prospective customers. But I remember one time when I called Janice on her cell phone, and she answered the phone, and we talked briefly, and then she said, Pete, I'm up on a roof right now inspecting a piece of real estate, and I'm in Florida. And after this, I have to go look at the client's horses, or it was something along those lines. So I think one of the points I'm trying to make is that truly the services that First Financial Trust has to offer are all-inclusive. And obviously you have to get paid for what you do, but it really is all-inclusive. It's not just wealth management, it's not just investing, it's not just trust services. It's kind of a latchkey approach to things. I guess the other thing that I would say is, as someone whose department is asked to make referrals to FFT, what we have found is that small business owners need an advisor. Sometimes they don't realize it. Sometimes they may have one that's not giving them the kind of attention that they deserve. And so we've had really good success in making referrals to First Financial Trust, and it's been great having that tool in our toolbox, so to speak.
And just to further your point on service is why I mentioned too that we have 2 officers on every account, and that's not only just for coverage. So if I'm not available, and they can reach Janice or vice versa. But it also gives them kind of a double perspective on things that I might not be able to address directly, but I have Janice as a resource, and vice versa. If she's getting fielded very specific questions on a particular stock, she can refer that to me. So a lot of institutions we found over the years have raised their threshold of when they're willing to work with you. So if you don't have $5 or $10 million in investable assets, you essentially get an 800 number, and you have to start fresh every time and explain your situation and say, here's my account, this is what I'm looking to do, and whoever happens to pick up the phone at that time is going to do their best to service you. Whereas, we know all our clients. We're available by cell phone. They know us as people. We know them as people. And it just makes it a lot easier for them to feel comfortable in working with us.
Yeah, and let me just add to piggyback on what Peter was saying. A lot of our customers, commercial customers, they know their business, they know what their product is, but what they lack is the financial side, the personal wealth side, how they can increase that for the retirement years. And that's where FFT comes in and adds that additional service and guidance to these small business owners.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could just touch on one other thing that Pete brought up as well. He brought up we do get paid for our service, but what I would say is that our fee structure is very transparent. There are not a lot of underlying fees that people are getting hit with. It's a straight management fee. And some of the things that other businesses are allowed to do under the SEC, we're not allowed to operate in a certain way. So what I mean by that as an example is you might go to a company that puts you in a particular mutual fund, and that mutual fund might be made up of 5 or 10 of their other own mutual funds that all charge fees. And when you look at it, everything wrapped up, people find out that they're paying a lot more than they think they're paying. So we just have a very straightforward management fee that is all-encompassing. So clients know what they're paying up front.
Well, and I think it speaks to your approach as well, because I'll get this wrong and maybe you can expand upon it, but as a fiduciary, you have an obligation to take care of the client first. Not every wealth management organization is a fiduciary, and so kind of making the point that you just made, in some cases, if it's good for them, then they want to see, is it really good for you, but it still matters whether it's good for them, where that's not the FFT approach, right?
And so that's where the kind of the difference again between being under the OCC and the SEC. By the OCC, we have to act in our client's best interest. So we have to make sure that what we're putting them in is beneficial to them above what is in purpose for us. So what I mean by that is oftentimes when companies are operating under the SEC, they have to follow what's called the suitability standard, which basically says as long as this investment generally meets the client's guidelines, then that is okay, it is suitable. So they might classify someone as a moderate growth type of client that's 60-40 between stocks and bonds, and they can put them in a fund that might charge 3%, but because it matches their profile, that's okay. When we're operating, we can't just look at what fits their profile. It has to be, okay, does this fit their profile, and is it the most cost-effective way to do it? So we can't put them in these very expensive products just because it meets their overall general perspective. We have to make sure it's in their best interest, and that includes low-cost investments as well.
I like to think that TSB operates under the same structure, as kind of like a fiduciary where we're looking out for our clients' best interests as well.
Yeah. And I think to your point earlier, Brendan, is your customers, they know you. And I think the bank overall collectively tries to do that on an individual one-on-one basis. We try to customize our loans as well as you do on your investment side. So it's a good opportunity for our customers to take advantage of all the products and services that the savings banks has to offer. And we've been around for 150 years and hopefully another 150 years and more.
Right, and it's all about relationship at the end of the day, and people doing business with people. FFT is celebrating an anniversary this year too, right? It's 30 years for you.
Congratulations.
So maybe when you guys grow up, it can be like the bank. We have to tease them because they're our colleagues, and we're happy to have them actually.
So if somebody was new to a trust company or new to just starting investing, what advice would you give them to get started?
I think the biggest thing is to understand and identify what your risk appetite is and what your long-term objectives are. We get so caught up in the modern news cycle about what's affecting the markets today and why is the market up or down 100 points or what's going on, and we lose sight of what am I trying to achieve with my investments. If I'm funding my retirement, this money needs to work for me for a long time. One of the big problems we see sometimes is maybe someone comes to us and they're nearing retirement and they think they have to get out of all stocks and all risk, and they say, all right, I'm retirement age, that's it. And we always try to explain to them, retirement is not a cliff. That's the start of the next phase of your life. And just because you're retiring and you're maybe in your mid-60s, that money's still got to work for you for 20 years. And as we saw from the crisis that we went through in 2008, 2009, the returns markets were back in about a 5-year time frame. So you still have a 20-year horizon. You still have the ability and the capability to absorb some risk. Now, you obviously want to dial it back the further you get into retirement. I'm not suggesting you just be pedal to the metal, 100% in stocks at retirement age. But you also
heard it here first.
It's not just a push button decision. It's like, okay, I retired, put me all in fixed income. Especially with interest rates where they are, these days, sub 2%. That can actually be detrimental to your portfolio to get too conservative too early.
I think the idea that people have the capability to manage and self-direct their own investment percentages is compelling in some ways. But if you've ever been in a position where you've had to do it, what you find is that you really don't often make changes that you should be making because you don't have somebody, how do I make this sound not creepy, looking over your shoulder or looking out for your best interest, touching base with you from time to time and saying, hey, any changes in your family situation? I happen to know of a customer relationship in which Janice actually went to the person's house and talked to 2 generations and talked to them about the plans that they were making and investments that they were making, and it was very comfortable. I heard she actually brought baked goods, which was pretty impressive to me. So I can't say enough. And I will also say, in the spirit of full disclosure, I actually am a client, and I don't have to be, but I've chosen to be because I think you guys do a nice job, and there's nobody I'd rather have looking out for my financial investments. So,
and I think the one point I want to make as well is like a person goes to a doctor for an annual checkup. And that's what's important for you guys to have at least an annual checkup on their financial because things change, circumstances in different situations change, and you guys are there to guide them through those changes and put them at ease so that they don't risk and lose everything. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, well, that's the most important aspect of it to me. When something's going on, you're purchasing a home, or you're retiring, or you're having a child. I mean, it's important to get together and meet.
So any final advice that you would give somebody as far as getting involved with a trust company or starting to invest?
I think, just going back to that, staying focused on the long term. So, we try not to react to the day-to-day movings of the market. Now, it's important to take all that information into consideration and making sure what the impact is on your goal. But, we want to make sure that you're staying in constant contact with us. Let us know of any of your life changes, but continue to kind of keep that longer-term focus.
It's never too early to start.
It's also
never too late to start.
Right.
Because you may not get to exactly where you want to get to if you start too late, so to speak, but better to do something than to do nothing. It can be a really daunting subject, and people think they don't have the ability to invest. Everybody has the ability to invest at some level.
That's an important point too, because sometimes people get concerned that, well, I don't have enough money to really go to a wealth management firm. I'm not there yet. I don't have several $100,000 in investable assets. And as I mentioned before, we work with everyone. So one of the products that we've developed is something called the SAVE program, which stands for Start Accumulating Value Early. And what it's really intended to do is to get those people that are starting off. Maybe they have their first home or they're starting a family. They don't have a lot of liquid investable assets, but the biggest factor when it comes to your returns is time. Because of the effects of compounding. The earlier you can start, even if it's just a small amount, $50, $100 a month that you put away into this vehicle, this SAVE program, the returns that it will generate over the long term can be significant. So to your point, it's never too early to start to do that.
Anything final anybody would like to add?
Well, I think I would like to just add to our clients and those who don't know us to utilize our services and the products of FFT. It's a valuable resource, and it's a free consultation. Do I have that correct? So it would be in their best interest to meet with you guys and discuss what their plans are and let you guys customize what's best for them.
Mm-hmm. And you're right here in Wakefield, too, which I think adds value. And you weren't always, but you are now. Well, you were. But the company itself wasn't always right here. The fact that it is now, I think, speaks volumes about our commitment to this local market that we're all serving, not only for the bank, but also from a wealth management and investment standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today. And we'll be back soon with an all-new edition of TSB Means Business.